Hello everyone, it's Yusuf for Good Games That No One Played. Today's game is Viking, the Battle for Asgard. Now, Viking is a game that I pulled up, but I've played all the way through about 4 times. I played this game back when I cared about getting all the achievements, and I was able to get all the achievements in 2 playthroughs, which didn't take long at all. Let me back up. I don't know much about Viking lore, but Vikings are becoming pretty popular lately. The idea of a warrior society that only cares about dying on the battlefield so that they can make it to Valhalla, a place where they can fight wars and die for all eternity, has been romanticized by every iteration of Vikings and even Spartans. Adult Yusuf thinks that all these warriors are wacko in the head, of course. Like, who would want to live in a society that glorifies armies of highly trained assassins that don't care about anything but some meathead ambition to shed blood everywhere? They don't really need a reason to be psychotic, but of course they need to make the reason some religious one. It's just crazy when you think about it. Fortunately, you cannot just use this as a premise for a story. You have to humanize living weapons so that they make better protagonists, right? Even the manga about that berserker has tons of feels, revealing that behind every stupid-ass meathead ideal, there is a politician who's planting ideas and pulling strings. The question is, in the plot, does the meathead learn to take responsibility for his actions and do what is right? Or does he just align himself with another politician and become their puppet? And keep in mind, I don't begrudge anybody for figuring out a way to become a functioning psychopath. I mean, if you think about it, Valhalla is a nice place for psychopaths to be. They can stab people over and over again and then go back home and drink beer and not have any consequence befall them. That's not too bad, if you're a psychopath. That's where our homie Skarin comes in. And Skarin is a Viking in a battle for Midgard against the underworld, a battle which the Vikings are losing. Badly. And Skarin is about to die, but is half resurrected by a powerful and hot woman named Freya. Of course, there is another woman named Hel with one L. And Freya gives Skarin an amulet that is basically a burner phone with her number in it, and tells him to get busy. Skarin is one of those stoic guys who doesn't talk. But given that the antagonist's name is Hel with one L, I think he's on the right side of history with this one.
Let us begin.
This game is totally about reclaiming all the territories that the Vikings lost to the underworld. But what I think is cool about it is that it is an open world that isn't so damn open that there are long periods of you running and doing nothing like Kingdoms of Amalur was. When you look at the map, it looks a lot bigger than it actually is in-game, and you end up being able to see one objective right after you leave the last objective. I think that it's one of the game's strongest features. It is a sandbox game, but the sandbox isn't so big that you get bored playing in it. When you capture the villages and the resource places, usually there are Vikings imprisoned in them. When you free them, they join back with your army and help you when you lay siege to a bigger Midgardian city. So the gameplay loop is free a city, or start off with the city that Freya gave you. Then you go and free as many of your homeboys as you can possibly free. Like, they're all over the place. Sometimes they're just tied to a pole. Sometimes they're part of a little teeny camp and they're stuck there. And then sometimes they're part of a distillery or coal mining place, a resource place that needs to be retaken over. And they're all still trapped in the middle of there. Every time you free the people from a resource or a village place, they will give you more objectives. You follow the objectives. You get a dragon, because there's a dragon in every stage.
This dragon is known as Ari. He is young, only 800 summers old, but he is strong and loyal.
And then you do the siege against a big town that hell has taken over. This is where the game really gets fun, because you basically bust up in there with a bunch of savage Vikings and take over a city straight up. You are just this free agent roaming around messing up the biggest monsters to turn the tide. Now, I'll admit, sometimes it gets a little tedious, but given the games that I've endured, it's not really that bad. Also, there are dragons. Of course, because we're talking about Vikings, the action is completely brutal with some great over-the-top kills that your most desensitized butcher would love. Like, you can't just kill the guy, you gotta take off an arm first.
Enough! Cease this! Let your pet defend himself, Hell. Do you fear your blessing will not be enough?
The cons of this game are kind of negligible to me. It isn't much of a story, obviously, and there are no women and children in this whole land, so it's just a big sausage fest for the whole island, which automatically makes Midgard worthless to me. No women to love, no kids to protect. Who cares? But it's a pretty chill game that I have no problem playing through 4 times. And if you want to play a game about Vikings without having to deal with all the crazy game mechanics taking the fun out of them, this is probably your best option. Anyway, that's all I got. Have you played the Viking game before? And if so, does this review make you want to play it again? Are you thinking about giving it a shot if you haven't played it? Do the faces on the box art look a little off to you? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Y'all freed me like Neo freed Agent Smith. Peace.